So, welcome everybody. We are 42 participants in this training. It's a crash course, as we call it. In the next hours, we will upgrade our knowledge in terms of case experience, capitalization, case study, preparation, and storytelling. And today we have the privilege to have someone from the CTA. We inherited some of the CTA's legacy with Mr. York, who is with us for today and for next week as well on the 1st. So thank you very much, York, for supporting this initiative. And we have a lot of interest in what you are going to share. And most of us here are already in this field of knowledge management and communication and storytelling and so on. So I believe this will be also bi-directional exchange, and not just a lecture, but we will also have the opportunity to discuss a lot. We have a lot of time for today, so we hope that it will be as productive as possible and as interactive and funny as possible also. So over to you, York. Thank you very much again for joining us and for supporting this initiative.
No, thank you. I hope you can hear me all right. Yes. Thank you very much for this introduction, and thanks, of course, for making this possible, for putting it all together and inviting everybody. It is a pleasure to be with all of you. I find it a very nice opportunity, not just because I like what we're going to be talking about it, because I like what you're doing also. I would like to facilitate this process, to discuss with you, to share a few ideas. But as you said, I would like this to try to be as much as possible interactive and two ways, and not that you have me talking for a couple of hours, because that will be a bit boring. I know that it is a bit difficult with Zoom. No, it is not always ideal. It is not always as perfect as we would like to, but let us try to make the most of it, and to make it as interesting and as useful as possible. So please interrupt me at any time, use the chat, raise your questions, or just open your microphone and just tell me, hey, wait a minute, can you explain this a little bit, or can you say this, or can you answer that question at any moment. Please don't feel shy to be a bit more active participant, because I think that will make it even more interesting. To get started, let me present myself. I've seen a couple of familiar names, so that's very nice. We will probably be hearing things that I have already been discussing with them before. But to those of you who don't know me, my name is Jorge Chavez Tafur. I come originally from Peru, and I live in the Netherlands. And I was working for quite some time with CTA. And there with CTA, I was in charge of a project on experience capitalization, which is basically the approach that we are going to be discussing now. I am an agronomist, but I've been working on what we call knowledge management for, I think, my whole career. At the moment, I'm working with Oxfam in the Netherlands, and I'm busy, monitoring, evaluating, writing, doing knowledge management in general, and I enjoy it very much. This initiative comes as a follow-up a bit of what we were doing with CTA. You know, CTA was a big institution which lasted for many years, working in the ACP countries. And unfortunately, it closed down. So when CTA was closing, we agreed as part of the legacy initiatives, to try to see which institutions would be willing and interested in carrying forward what CTA was doing. And you guys were interested in taking this further, in continuing the ideas on experience capitalization and on knowledge management. So that's why we're here together. I find it a very nice opportunity to work with other people, but also to with the expectation that you all are going to continue this further. So we see this first workshop or meeting or discussion not as something which is the end product, but hopefully as something which is the starting of something bigger, as something that will start, that you will continue further, that you will bring, you will continue exploring, you will develop new ideas, I don't know, write proposals, get some money to do further activities. That is the whole idea that CTA had, and that is what we hope to continue. So we will discuss a few ideas, especially because you have a specific need at the moment, but please see this not as the end, but rather as the beginning. You can see my screen. So I'm going to share a few slides, and then we will try to see how is it that we're going to be working together this morning. You can see the objectives of this initial meeting is basically to work with you, to discuss with you on how do we develop knowledge products, or how can we do it. Basically, because you are interested in producing a series of case studies which show the work that you are doing, as I understand, in terms of climate relevant initiatives. So the idea is, well, twofold: to discuss, let's say, the theory, and at the same time to try to put it into practice, to test it, to try it out while we are talking, and at the same time afterwards, let's say as a sort of homework, which will help you and help us in general produce these case studies, which can then be shared, can then be published, and which can be used to showcase the work that you are all doing. If we think of these different case studies, what I understand is that, yeah, you expect to have at least 25 of them and to have them published. So this is not just writing a story for internal consumption, but no, you are interested in publishing them and showing them during this extension week. I find this very attractive. I think, even though I don't know all of you, I am 100% sure that you have a lot to say. You have been working in this subject, you have been doing interesting things. So I think that it is a very good opportunity if you are able to put it all together and to show it and to boast a little bit, to demonstrate to the rest of the world that what you are doing is worth it and that what you are doing is interesting. So this is what we're going to be doing. We're trying to, well, let's say, define a pathway for coming with these different case studies, and then, of course, publishing them. Of course, those case studies have to meet certain standards, so that's what we're going to be discussing also, and we have to make sure that all of you are able to reach to that quality which is expected, of course. Not just in terms of the content, but also in terms of the way in which the case studies are going to be presented. As Andri said, we are going to be working today for a couple of hours and also next week. So we planned this short course or short discussion in 2 meetings, starting right now. And during this first meeting, what we're going to be talking today, we thought of dividing it into what we call 4 separate sessions. We all know that Zoom, what we just said, Zoom is not always perfect, and it can also be very tiring to be for several hours looking at the screen and discussing via the microphone. So in order to make it a little bit more lively, we are going to be discussing around these 4 separate sessions. So I will make a short presentation in each case. We will have a short discussion. Then I will ask you questions, let's say a small assignment, which you can try to do, and then we will share a few ideas about it. And then we can have a short break before going into the next session. No, I think that if we have a little break and if we have these, let's say, assignments and discussions, then it is not going to be so heavy and so difficult. Yes. So in terms of the content, I would like to start with a short introduction. What is it that we're talking about? What is experience capitalization and why do we do it? And then we will go into the subject itself by describing and analyzing a specific case, the stories that you want to talk about. And then we will go into the documentation bit, the actual writing. And we will hope to finish the session today by thinking, okay, how do we go further? How do we prepare for the next bit? What do we do between now and next week? And especially what will you be doing after next week? Yes, so this is grosso modo what we are going to be doing. As I said, we have a couple of hours. I'm tempted to say that we will take approximately 45 minutes for each session. Yeah, I'm Latin American, so I'm not very good with keeping time, but we will try to do that, and we will try to be on time, of course, and especially we will try to cover all the issues that we want to address. So far, so good.
Yeah, I think we are on track and we understand the approach. If anyone wants to express something, please just raise your hand and we can
exactly.
We can consider giving the floor to anyone who wants to ask question or who wants to contribute also in some way.
Exactly. So yeah, I will start then and show a few slides of this very first session, the introduction, the planning, the framing, the process. Why are we doing this? What are we doing? And then, as I said, we continue with the next sessions. I will show you these first slides. Andre, if there is anything on the chat or there's any hands raised, please interrupt me because probably I may not be seeing them. So you help me with this, or just anybody can just raise your voice and tell me to stop. Okay?
Yes, but maybe because Edie is already here. Do you want him to just give some key words or?
Yes, please. No, it's good. Yes.
Before we continue.
Yes, please.
Edie, are you there? Maybe some words from AFAS Edie. Yes,
hello.
Thank you.
You can hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Yes.
Thanks a lot, Andre. Basically, sorry, I'm a little late, running a little late, and my apologies. But just really to thank you, Andre, and the team who have organized this meeting to collect innovations on climate smart interventions, which certainly is very important, especially with respect to global challenges and specifically what is happening in Africa now, which we have seen for the last probably 10 years. And it's been building up at very catastrophic levels with interventions which are a bit scattered and the lack of learning space for that. And therefore, this initiative, which collects lessons and so on, and which will build up into the Extension Week event, I think is very relevant. And therefore, we thank the countries who have contributed and the organizers of the meeting, and Jog for your facilitation, and of course the AFAS team. So me really, I'll just be listening, and we hope we can have very good articles that are publishable, but also can be used as a learning instrument for others to learn from, and can also be scaled up. So thank you very much, and let me just hand it back to you, Andre. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Edie, for joining us and for taking of your precious time, even for these keywords. So yeah, George, we can continue.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you very much for your introduction, for opening this officially. So let us get going. As I said, we start with session number 1. And you can see my screen probably. You can see this very nice photo and the logos, of course. This is just to emphasize that everything what I'm going to be talking here was developed and is part or was part of this project that we were running with CTA, and which of course was working together with FAO and with IFAT and with IICA. Yes, can you see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Yes, everything all right?
Yeah.
Okay, so we talk about stories, we talk about sharing knowledge, we talk about documentation. Those are sometimes common words that we use, but which are understood in slightly different ways. So for as a way of putting everything together, the FAO especially started using this term experience capitalization. So I'm going to be using it here because I think it more or less covers everything that we are going to be talking about. It is not just knowledge management, and it is not just writing. It is preparing, sharing information, sharing practical information which comes directly from an experience, which means from the work that we are doing. So we are not doing research. We are also not doing journalism. We are not managing a library. Basically, what we are interested with this is to trying to look in detail at the work that we have been doing, and by doing so, being able to identify some lessons that we can share and which we can then use to improve the very same work that we are doing. So basically, I want to emphasize here this word experience, because what we're doing is working around the work that we do, focusing on our work, focusing on our experience in order to improve that experience. Why do we talk about, or why should we do this? If we think of the work of an organization like AFAS or the work of CTA, we can say that basically what we do is we're trying to improve a very difficult situation. All of you work with farmers, with the rural areas. You know about climate change. You know of the many millions of problems that we are all facing, and which we are in our modest way trying to solve. And so we work to improve the situation in the rural areas. And I think that many of you and many of us are quite successful. What we're doing is not bad. What we're doing is very good. I think that many of the projects, and I've been traveling, thanks to CTA, I was able to travel all over the place, and I was able to see many interesting initiatives and many good results. The problem is that most of these very good results are not seen, and they are not known, and nobody knows them. So here in Europe, for example, we can be very critical of the work which is going on in the rural areas, because we have the feeling that, there's no result. Nothing is happening. We are just, I don't know, spending money without doing anything. And I think that is very unfair, because, as I said, there's a lot of positive results, but these positive results somehow are not known unless you go to the field, unless you develop specific interest and start talking to specific people. So I really think that we need to do something about it, and we need to show these things that we are doing. And that is why that's what I work on, and I think that's why you are all very interested, also because you are proud of the work that we are doing. Many times when we try to write a story, and when we submit an article, or when we write an annual report, we are trying to show what we've done. But most of the times, this becomes a bit descriptive and a bit, to put it bluntly, a little bit boring. So we think that we need to do an additional effort to make an interesting case, to show a more interesting story, to show really the things as they are, not as we wish them to be, but as they are, showing the problems, showing the difficulties, and especially showing the nice initiatives that we have been taking. So this is, we talk about documenting, not like writing, but we believe that there has to be more than just writing. We have to do a little bit more thinking and a little bit more of an analysis. In Latin America, this was called systematización. No, you probably have heard this word systematization, which basically tries to make some order of the information that we have and making some structure with all the bits that we have in order to understand it better and in order to draw these lessons that we want. No, but basically, the main idea behind this is that there is a lot that we're doing correct, that we're doing right, but we don't show it. We don't analyze it in detail. We don't reflect. And therefore, we are not identifying all those lessons that could be used. So what we try to do now is to try to get those lessons so that we can share them, so that we can use them. Now, repeating a bit myself what I just said, when we talk about this approach, what we want is to describe, to reflect, and to analyze, but focusing on an experience. So, as I said again, not university work, not theoretical research. This is not information from the newspapers. No, this is information which comes from our own work, from the work that we do in the field. This analysis is followed by a process by which we share it. So we put it in a nice way so that it reaches the people who can use it to help understand what we are doing, to help us improve what we are doing. And we believe that by doing all of this, we are not just repeating information, but we are generating new ideas. So in a certain way, we are also researchers, or we are also, just like people in a laboratory or people in a university, we are also developing new ideas by focusing on the work that we are doing. The difference is that these new ideas, this knowledge, comes directly from the field. How to go about this, how to do this, we can talk about recipes or guidelines, but basically the best way to go about it, I believe it's by trying. Learning by doing is a phrase that summarizes the approach that we have been testing and which I think is the best one. So which is why I can say I can talk with you, I can talk for 8 hours or I can talk for 40 hours. But that is not as useful as if you start trying it out. So I would really like to invite you to test this, to try out what I'm saying, to try to organize, discuss, share your ideas, because I think that is the best, or it's going to be the most successful way. So with this short introduction, we start. And of course, as with every project, with every initiative, we have to start by planning a little bit. And planning means, okay, thinking, trying to answer a few questions, and at the same time trying to visualize how is it that we're going to be working, what are we going to be doing, how long is it going to take us, etc., etc. One of these first questions, of course, is what for? Why are we doing this? So I would like you to think very, very quickly for yourselves. Why are we doing this? Why are we listening to this Latin American guy talking? Why are we sitting here? What do we expect to produce? And okay, Andri already shared some that you're going to be writing some stories. These stories are going to be published, hopefully, for this event. So I think it is important to come back to that, because whatever we're going to be doing now, let us try to shape it in this context. Now you're going to be writing about climate change. You're going to be presenting them in this extension week. So you're going to be sharing them with this particular audience. So all of that is going to be shaping, let's say, the work that we are doing. We also have to think of the target audience. Who's going to be reading the articles that you will be writing? Because, of course, you realize that it's very different if you write an article for the, let's say, the American Journal of Soil Science. It's very different than if you write an article for the farmers in the village where you work. Different target audiences have different needs, and they expect different, different products. So you have to know very clearly who's going to be reading your product so that you present it in the best way. No, this is a little bit of journalism and communications work. If you write an article which is full of jargon and full of scientific words, maybe somebody in the American Journal of Soil Science is going to be very happy. But probably I'm not going to be very happy. I don't enjoy those articles. And if you share it with farmers, of course, they are not going to like it. No, it's the same as younger people prefer videos and WhatsApp and Facebook and Instagram and all those things, while those of us who are a bit older, are not so fond of that. No, so you have to know who's going to be reading in order to prepare for that, so that your document is read as much as possible. It is also very important to think of who's going to be working together with you. Who are your colleagues? With whom are you doing this? You will be writing an article. Are you going to do it on your own? Are you going to do it together with your colleague sitting next door? Are you going to be sharing information, collecting information together? Think a little bit, who can help you in this effort? And probably it may be your colleagues, or maybe you think, maybe my wife is going to help me, or maybe my children are going to help me do some interviews. I don't know, whatever. But most of the times, this is not an effort which we do individually. Most of the times, this is a collective effort. So we have to start by identifying, okay, who is involved or who should be involved together with us. We think of a time frame also. When are we going to be doing it? You already have some deadlines. So this is very important, because if you miss the deadline, then we're too late. So you have to start running today. If the article has to be submitted by the end of October, I don't know, then we don't have so much time. As with every
Yes.
Yeah,
George,
tell me. Yes.
Do you want me to share quickly about the timeline for this exercise?
I think it's very good. Yeah, it's very relevant right now.
Okay, let me just share quickly. As we said, we are very interactive here.
Yeah.
So, colleagues, you can see, this has been already shared, but I'm showing it again here. So our deadline for the submission of the draft is on the 22nd of October. So we really need to submit. I call it the first draft, but in fact, it's the almost 90 or 80% finalized, because by 1st of November, it will go to the press. So we need to have these stories ready on the 22nd of October latest. Those who can submit earlier, of course, it will be better for them, because they will have more time to revise and continue the improvement with the reviewers. So over to you again, back to you.
Thank you.
York.
Thank you. I go back to sharing my screen. Yeah. Thanks for this. This is very useful, because we have to adjust this exercise to the need that we have. So it is not that we are going to be writing a story for whenever. No, we have to write it for this event, which has this time. So if we're going to do it, we have to do it properly. We have the time, fortunately. So we're going to be meeting today and then next week. And after that, I think you have a couple of weeks to complete a story The more we do today and next week, the easier it will be for you to finish that story and to be ready on time. And of course, it is not just the actual writing. No, we were going to be seeing this later today. It is not just writing, but it will also be, well, collecting feedback and making sure that everything is correct. And of course, adding photographs, diagrams, a nice layout, etc., etc. No, so all of that has to be taken into account and to be sure that we are not going to be late. Yes? Now, another of the questions that we have to answer when we start planning any process is how are we going to be doing it? How are we going to follow it? What is the approach that we are doing? And this is what we are going to be discussing today. And of course, the last question, which you can see there on the top right, is what are we going to be writing about? And this sounds sometimes like an obvious question, because we started by saying you're going to be writing about your own experience. But the problem is that your own experience is sometimes very, very, very big. So you cannot write about everything. You cannot write about all the things that you are doing because it becomes unmanageable. You cannot even write about one project because even writing about one project is too much. So deciding what is perhaps one of the most difficult parts of this whole process. What are you going to be writing about? I would like to spend a few minutes on this. Andri already said, we're going to be writing about climate change. We're going to be writing about initiatives responding to climate change. Of course, it is all centered around extension and the work that you do. But maybe that is not enough to help us choose what are you writing about. We also, or Andri also mentioned that we want 25 stories. And of course, we want 25 stories which are different. They are all about climate change, but they are all different in itself. So how do we make this selection? This is what I would like to think, invite you all to think about. What do I write about? And I would like to try to test a very small analogy. I cannot see any of you. I don't see your faces. And of course, I don't see where you are sitting. But I can imagine that all of you have shoes. All of you have your shoes on. I believe that all of you are walking around with shoes. Now, imagine, think a little bit of shoes. Shoes, they always come in pairs, of course. Many times they're brown or black or dark color. The ladies have high heels. So we could say that we are all, well, quite familiar with shoes. If I would ask you to tell me a story and to write a story about your shoes, you would have to think of, okay, I'm going to tell them something that everybody knows because everybody has shoes. We put them on every day. But at the same time, so everybody knows about them, but at the same time, you have to tell something different. You have to tell something a bit more interesting. Because if you just tell me, well, Jorge, I have two shoes and they are brown. And I bought them 4 years ago and they're very pretty. If you just tell me that, it's not going to be so interesting. So probably your story is not going to be published. I'm not saying that that would be wrong. I'm just saying that it might not be so exciting and so interesting. Why? Because everybody has shoes. Everybody knows, everybody has shoes which are a few years old. everybody has two of them, and most of the times they are either brown or black or whatever, or running shoes or high heel shoes or whatever. Now, so I hope you're following me. We are going to be selecting a story which you may be thinking, oh, everybody has the same story. Everybody has shoes. Everybody works around climate change. But we have to try to find a way of making our story special, making our story different so that it becomes more exciting, so that the readers are going to be interested in reading it. So let me open the microphone, and I would like to invite some volunteer to tell me about his or her shoes. Who volunteers? Anybody?
Yes, Adeline, you raised your hand. Please go ahead.
Yes, thank you very much. My shoes, should I say exactly the story I'm going to write about, or should I say the shoes that we are putting on?
I want to know. I want to know a little bit about your shoes.
Oh.
Yes, I'm very curious.
Okay, my shoes are black, very comfortable inside, and they don't have a pointed heel, but they have a slanting heel that makes stepping on the ground very easy and very comfortable. My shoes can move in the field, they can move on the tiles, they can move anywhere, and they will not slide. So that's what I can say about my shoes.
Fantastic. This is super nice. And this is a very nice analogy.
We have three other hands raised now.
Let us hear the different ones before I say anything. Please, go ahead.
Ande, Beatrice, Godfrey.
Thank you very much. Are you getting me?
Yes.
Yes.
My shoe, it fits me very well. You can use it for office. You can use it for field. I can use it to play football. It is a multi-purpose shoe. If I'm in a muddy place, like if I played football in a muddy place, one time I was in the field, I played football with this shoe. I just wiped it and it was clean and I was ready for the next meeting. So it's a unique shoe that is, I can use it for anything, for field, I can play with it, and it suits all conditions. Thank you.
Super.
And good morning, everybody. This is Beatrice. I have a shoe which is it doubles as slippers, and it can actually be used even in office. And I think the unique part about it is that it's very cheap, but when I put it on and I go to the office, nobody even knows. They're very comfortable, and they can actually go to the bathroom. They're unique.
Yes, Godfrey. Thank you.
Yes, my shoes are very interesting. The interesting story about my shoes is that the way I got them. I was sitting around with my friends and they said, tomorrow we'll go for a walk 10K. And I said, I don't have walking shoes. And some young boy came in selling these secondhand shoes. And it was cheap. It was very cheap, maybe in dollars, like $5, $6. So I said, okay, I'll just walk with them once. I got them, put them on, very comfortable to walk with. When I came back, almost every other day, those are the shoes I put them on. And today I'm putting on the same shoes. So my shoes, they're sneakers, they're black, and they don't have any label, but when I walk around, people think I bought them from an expensive shop. My shoes are the best.
Thank you.
Yeah, There are more people raising their hands for the shoe story, yeah? Maybe we should shift to the CSA story and the climate relevant initiative stories now, or maybe one or two others. And then
let us leave it there for now. I think this is very good, and it really illustrates what I wanted to illustrate. If you remember, the first person started by saying, my shoes are black, my shoes are comfortable, my shoes have a slanting heel. This is very good. Most of the shoes are black, most of the shoes are comfortable. So it is a very good start, but if you just say this, you will realize that after hearing 30 times, my shoes are black, my shoes are comfortable, then the story is not so interesting anymore. No, because remember that you are telling a story about something that people already know a little bit. People already know about shoes. We all have shoes. So if we just say, oh, my shoes are black, well, yeah. To be honest, I don't think you are going to be reading an article about just shoes like this. But this very same person who started the first one immediately made the story a bit more interesting because she said, oh, with my shoes, I can walk anywhere. So she started giving a little bit more of a nuance to the story and making it more interesting. So then she could have told us also, where does she walk to? She walks to the park, she walks to the office, she works at home. Fantastic. Something that came in the second story. Oh, I use it to go to the office. I use it to play football. So then we start getting a little bit more of an idea of who this person is. This person likes football, and the shoes are so great that he can use them to play football also. And then the second person told us even more, because when they get dirty, oh, I just clean it and no problem. So he's already telling us something about the quality of the shoes, something that he likes it. Why is it that he prefers those? Because they're very simple to clean. So he's not wasting time in cleaning them. The third person came with another idea, that the shoes are very cheap and nobody knows. So maybe I don't remember, he or she was a bit vain. She wants to pretend that she has very expensive shoes, but they are not expensive. They are very cheap and nobody knows. So that's another quality which is very interesting, and which immediately, me as a reader, imagine I want to buy my own shoes. Maybe I should ask that person, where do I go? Because I also don't have so much money and I want to buy cheap shoes, which look like expensive ones. You see, so if I am the reader, I'm interested in that story because you're telling me something that I don't know. I know a lot about shoes, but I don't know where to buy shoes that are cheap but look expensive, or which I can clean them easily, or which I can use them for many different purposes. So in that case, what I'm saying is that you are choosing correctly. You are making a nice selection, and this is going to be turned into a story which is going to be interesting. The last person made it even better than the previous ones, because concluded by saying, my shoes are the best. So he even came with a conclusion. They are the best. And he told us a bit of how he bought them, where he bought them, how he came to it. So there's a story. It is not just a description. He's not just saying, my shoes are black, my shoes are like this. No, he's telling us a story. And as readers, we are interested in stories. As readers, we are interested on concrete lessons, recommendations. I want to know what to do. And you are telling me, you are helping me because you're recommending me, buy this type of shoes, go to that shop, do what I did, ask your neighbor, test them by playing football, etc., etc. I hope you're following me, but I think that the examples that you made are exactly what I wanted to raise, that when we are going to be selecting what to write about, the subject is going to be a subject that everybody knows. So therefore, we have to put it in a way that becomes interesting for somebody who already knows about climate change or about extension in your countries or about small-scale farmers. We all know about this. You have to select a part of your work which is going to be interesting to the reader. And this is something that some of the people working in marketing call the unique selling point. What is it that you have or that your experience has which is different than the experience of other people? So you have to think of these three words here. What idea is new in the sense that other people have not heard it? What idea which is different that perhaps contradicts what everybody else say? Or what idea which is particularly relevant? In the story of the shoes, the four persons who spoke were telling me, yeah, I think it was relevant because they were, I'm also looking for shoes. I want to buy some new shoes and you've given me some ideas. So it became especially relevant for me. It was different. It was not what I expected. I didn't think that the football shoes were going to be the same as office shoes. In that sense, it was not what you normally hear. My son plays football and he goes with some shoes that I don't think he would be wearing to the office. So you're telling me something which is different than what I knew. And at the same time, you were telling me something new, not like the story of how you bought it or the story that how you cleaned them. When we are going to be selecting the case you're going to be writing, I would like you to think in the same way. Think of something which is part of your work. Think of your experience. Think of all those millions of things that you have been doing in your day-to-day work. But at the same time, think of something which is going to be interesting for the reader. And when we talk about interesting, think of this. It has to be new. It has to be different. It has to be contradictory. It has to be especially relevant. Put yourself in the shoes of a salesman, somebody who markets products. If you want to sell something, you really have to convince the buyer. And to convince the buyer, you have to show that the product that you want to sell is fantastic, is great, is different, is new, is not something that he or she would find anywhere else. Because if she or he would find it anywhere else, why is he going to be reading your story? Why is he going to be buying it from you and not from somebody else? Sometimes I make the analogy of something I've mentioned before. Remember when you write your curriculum, your CV, when you apply for a job, you have to present yourself in a fantastic way because you have to show that you are better than the rest. Now, this doesn't sound very nice, but actually that's what you have to do. You have to show that you are the best candidate. With the stories, it's the same. You have to show that your story is the most interesting one, because otherwise people are not going to read it. So, just to finish with this, tell me.
There is one hand raised. Do you want to continue first, or we give the floor to Dr. Mercy?
No, we can take a question now and then we continue. Please, go ahead.
Mercy?
Yeah, Andrea, how are you?
Yes, how are you?
Just interested about the shoe story.
How is your shoes?
Yeah, I use what they call eco shoes. Eco shoes.
Yes.
That's what I look for whenever I want to buy my shoes. And eco shoes, from the name, it has to do with, the ecosystem. it has to do how these shoes fit well into the, with the ecosystem. It's very comfortable, and it's made from, materials, simple materials within the environment. It does not wear easily. It's, the technology used for the production of the shoes is such that, the shoes will not wear easily. I have been using one for the past 15 years and I still travel with it. Yeah, very comfortable. My present job, I bought Echo shoes when I was coming on job, and I still use that shoe to travel. When I tell people this shoe is going to 18 years, they don't believe it. And it looks so good. So that's what I want to tell you about my shoes. It's Echo shoes. Look for it. It's really a unique brand and very cheap, not costly.
That's nice. Thank you. And I think that you're highlighting these ideas which I'm sharing on the screen here. That these Echo shoes, perhaps they are a new brand. They are not so known. So that makes it interesting. You are telling me something that I didn't know. So you are telling me something new. That makes it especially interesting for me as a reader. So I want to read your story. At the same time, you're telling me something which is very relevant, because my shoes are always wearing out. My shoes don't last very long. So if you tell me that the shoes that you recommend are going to last for the rest of my life, I find that interesting. I find that very relevant. So I want to read your story. No, so I think you're following me. I am the reader. You have to convince me to read your story. And the best way to convince me is by telling me something that I want to read. By telling me something which is new. By telling me something which is different than what everybody tells me. By telling me something which is especially relevant for me, especially useful for me. If you do that, I'm going to read your story. And therefore, the whole process is going to be useful. But if you don't do that, if you just tell me what everybody tells me, if you just write a story that everybody else has told, probably I'm not going to read your story. Not because I don't like you, but basically because there are a million other stories out there and I don't have the time. So this is one of the very big disadvantages that we have now in this information age. We all have access to internet, we all have access to newspapers, we all have access to television and YouTube and Facebook and blah, blah, blah. So if I can choose between stories. If you tell me one which is not so interesting, I'm not going to read it because there is so much more. So I insist again, when we're going to be choosing, go for something which is going to be very, very interesting for the reader. Just like these Echo shoes. To finish this first part, once we have selected the idea, which is something that you are already doing, we have to think, okay, where am I going to get information about this? So if there is the person who's going to be talking about the Echo shoes as an example, you need to start thinking, okay, where do I find more information about these Echo shoes? Who's going to tell me about them? Where do I add to the information that I already have in my own head? So we need to go and look for information which is going to be helping me produce my article. And this is when we think, okay, I need to collect primary information and I need to collect, or I can collect secondary information. And you know the difference between these two. Primary comes directly from persons whom you interview, whom you talk, your colleagues, farmers, your neighbors, etc. And secondary information comes from other sources. So from other articles or other documents which have been published before. You can use both of them. And you can also use quantitative information, so numbers, data. And you can also use qualitative information, opinions. We need to collect all of that and we need to bring it together because the article we're going to be writing has to be full of ideas, full of information. And many times we have a lot of those ideas in our head, but we don't have everything. So we have to go and look for it. In order to do that, you have to identify what are the sources. Who knows? If I'm going to be writing about climate change, who knows about climate change? So I may need to go and interview a specific person. I need to collect all of this information in different ways, and then I need to put it all together and to structure it. Collecting information, once we identify the sources, we can think, okay, we can do interviews, we can do questionnaires, we can do focus group discussions. I think you are all very well aware of these different techniques. Now, what I just want to highlight here is that you may need to go to the field, you may need to interview your neighbors, you may need to interview the farmers you work with, or you may simply need to go and observe and do some participant observation, just, I don't know, looking at what's happening in the field. Or maybe the easiest but the most boring, you will need to read some other documents, you will need to read your reports, you will need to read what other people have been writing and to copy it and put it together. We spoke a little bit about the participants who's going to be helping you. No, and you have to think that there may be others who are also part of the same experience in which you are involved. So you have to think of colleagues or local authorities or farmers. You also have to think of those persons who are going to be reading your story or who may benefit from the whole process. And why do we need to see this? Because you may need to involve them in part of the process or not. When we talk about people involved in the experience, we think of the owners, by which we mean those who are directly involved in the process, not those who have, I don't know, been an active part of the experience that you're going to be describing. But you may also think of, I don't know, others who know about the work that you are doing, but who are not so directly involved. Or you may think of some specific expert about climate change or about a particular activity who may come in with a specific opinion or with a specific bit of information. And then you may have also some other people who may help you with this process, not necessarily providing information, but perhaps, I don't know, sending you photos or helping you get some access or, I don't know, maybe helping you with the layout or with the edition of the article. Now, so when we talk about participants, we have to think also who's going to be helping us, who's going to be allowing us to do a better work. And then we need to go planning. No, which is what you should all be starting to do actually right now. How are we going to be doing this exercise? Remember that we only have a couple of weeks for this. So we need to start thinking, okay, what we need, what resources do we need to have to do this? Do you need a special time? Do you need to take some time from your regular work? Do you need to involve your colleagues, etc., etc. No, this, of course, this is more of a need when we are thinking of a long-term process. In this case, you are only going to be working for this article for a couple of weeks, so you don't need to worry so much. But it is still very important to plan activities, to know what we're going to be doing, to know who's going to be involved, to know what resources you need, and also to know what specific conditions need to be in place. Because it may well be that during the next couple of weeks, you are going to be writing these articles on your Saturdays and Sundays and holidays, and therefore, well, you need to dedicate time for that. So we come to the end of the first part. And here I would like you to think these 3 questions. Now forget about the shoes. That was a very nice exercise, but we are not going to be writing about shoes. We are going to be writing about this climate change initiatives work that you are all doing. So I would like you all to take a piece of paper and to start putting some ideas into paper. What are you going to be writing about? And start thinking, why is this interesting? Are people going to be reading? Is it new? Is it different? Is it relevant to the people who are reading it? Or is it just going to be, I have black shoes? Next to it, where are you going to get this information? Who knows about this? What are you going to do to get all the information you need about your case? And then the third question, are you going to need some help? And who's going to help you? Yes, so let us take a few minutes to think of these questions. Remember what I said at the beginning. Probably this question number 1 is one of the most difficult parts. So don't expect to know the answer immediately. Maybe you need to talk to your neighbors, maybe you need to talk to your colleagues, maybe you need to think for yourself. But it is very important to start by putting some ideas in paper. So start thinking and start writing. And if you change it afterwards, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. We just improve and improve and improve. But let us get started by thinking. So let us take a few minutes. I'm going to go and get some coffee. And in 5 minutes, let me hear a couple of examples. All right?
Okay. Maybe you can keep that screen because...
Oh, yes. Sorry.
We need the questions.
Yes. Is it visible?
Yeah.
I would like you to focus, but especially on the first one. No, so the second and 3 is important, but right now it is very important to think of this first one. You are all going to be writing an individual story, your own story. What are
tell me, Jörg, do we need to give some precision about the audience at this stage, or is this just for the exercise that we are doing it?
No.
Because maybe the story that they will write will depend also on who is going to read it.
Yes, I think so. I think it always depends on who's going to read it, but let us think that the readers are all those people who are going to join this extension week.
Exactly.
So normally we think of people like ourselves, no, like you all, like participants of events like this one, interested in the work that AFAS is doing. So this is not farmers. This is not researchers in universities only. This is not, this is people who know about agriculture, people who know about extension work, people who know about the difficulties in the rural areas, no, more or less. And of course, people who are interested in climate change and what we're doing about it. Yes?
Yeah, we are on the same page.
Good, good.
It will target more extension workers, and in some ways also, why not the farmers directly? Yeah, some literate.
It can be.
Farmers.
Yes.
Yeah.
It can be. Yes. In some cases, certainly, but probably it's not that you are writing for farmers in general. No.
Yeah. Have you got your coffee?
No, not yet. I'm coming in. Just wait for me 1 second, okay?
Yeah.
Can I share your coffee? Get us 2 cups.
Of course.
While we are thinking, yeah, Jorg said that we are targeting 25 stories, of course, but that is the minimum. It's not that we will stop with 25, but that is the minimum that we want to do to produce during this process. So, because I see like 57 people participating here, which means that we might have up to 50 stories. Why not? And there will be many channels to share these stories, by the way, and not only the collection book that will be launched during the extension week, but there are also many other channels where we can share it. Oh, Selar, are you raising your hand?
Andre.
Yes.
Yeah, the last aspect that you were talking about. So I wanted to find out whether it's supposed to be individually or it could be a group. Like from Ghana, all of us come together to write on one experience, or we have to think together but have different experiences from different sectors of the climate smart initiatives.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think you are anticipating already. That will be answered in question 3 here. How many other people are going to work with you? The resource persons, the technicians, and so on, who are going to work with you. But each country will have to submit 5 stories. I think your focal person has already announced that. So if you have 5 teams, it's good. But if you don't have enough human resource to do all the 5 stories, maybe you should work separately and from time to time just meet and see how to produce something that are quite different, not too similar. Thanks. I hope I answered your question. Yes, Mercy.
Yeah, thank you very much, Andrew. I came on board very late. I just joined, and I want to know if organizations can come as one and also come up with their story. This is organization now, not a country. Because we are Sasakawa, can we come up with our story as Sasakawa?
Would it be one story, or because you're working on so many countries also?
Yeah, we're working on so many countries, and we can do different stories. We can do different stories, and after submitting the stories, what is the process? Because I came on board a bit late. Can you just
well, the book that we want to produce is a collection of CSA initiatives or any climate relevant initiative in Africa. And our entry point for producing it are the countries, because it's the countries who will be accountable and submit the 5 stories. So maybe Sasakawa can, this is just my proposition for now, but we can discuss this later also. Maybe Sasakawa can just work with the country forest where they have office and support the initiative from the country fora, because they are there
Can I
to
say
do
something
it.
about that?
Yes,
Andrew?
Beatrice. Yes, go
Yes.
ahead.
Welcome, Mercy, my friend. And that's what exactly I was thinking about, because what Mercy is talking about, I don't know about other countries. We have actually the Sasakawa people on right now on, but they came through the UFAS. We have Olive, and then we have Ande. I was almost asking him when he came in as a member of UFAS, but I know that he's in Ethiopia, but he came in as a member of UFAS. So maybe we say we can work together with the Sasakawa Uganda, and because the Sasakawa is a member organization of UFAS, and we can work together. And as the UFAS, of course, we have a number of case stories which we had started on, and we agreed with Elizabeth that we need to fine tune them. And some of the members who are here participated in those case stories. Yeah.
I think Max has to add also something on that. Thank you, Beatrice. We can't hear you.
That is good.
No, Andre, I was just now going to agree with Beatrice, because that was also my point. But also to add that, yes, since Sasakawa is a really robust organization in many ways, they could probably also write something in the context of the extension and bring that story, so that we have a diversity and we bring what they are doing as a Sasakawa. But as Beatrice also put, Sasakawa is also a member of country fora in some few countries. I know perhaps Uganda and maybe Nigeria, but
even in Nigeria,
they may not be, where they are not maybe members, and there is a very good story, a difference that makes the case to be unique. We could welcome that. That is very good initiative. Of course, the country fora will go beyond their members, and we shall also share a list of initiatives which we already compiled by Professor Alexandro, a consultant who did the inventory of or most of the initiatives in Africa. So we can share that with the countries, so that they look at them where they find they can document such, that to be a good one. So that will answer one of the, actually question number 2 of our good friend York. Where are you going to get the information? So that's from me.
Thank you, Max. Jorg is back with coffee.
I'm back.
Okay, can I say something?
Yes, Godfrey. Dr. Godfrey, yes.
Yeah, in line with what Dr. Mercy said, for me, I think these stories, our emphasis should be on the initiatives. Or you see, for every initiative, you agree with me that we have development partners in such initiatives. I don't think there will be a success story without a mention of the development partners. We are reporting what is being done in Nigeria. And of course, Sasakawa is a partner in NIFAS.
Yes, yes.
Not just Sasakawa, but I think for all the success stories, we are obliged to as a way of giving the story credibility, discussing or getting information from the development partners, and mentioning them, including exactly what they've done or other things they've done in line with that particular initiative. I think we cannot give a success story without seriously mentioning those who brought about the story. Thank you very much.
We fully agree on that. Sure, we have to recognize and give credit to those who are working with us in preparing these stories. Don't forget to mention that in your story. So maybe York, we can continue because yeah, time is running, and we are just on the second part of your
Yes.
process now.
Yes.